Who wants to be the next Italian wine ambassador? Join an exclusive network of 400 Italian wine ambassadors across 48 countries. Vinitaly International Academy is coming to Chicago on October 19th to 21st, and to Almaty, Kazakhstan from November 16th to 18th. Don't miss out. Register now at vinitaly.com.
Welcome to the Italian Wine Podcast. I'm Cynthia Chaplin, and this is Voices. Every Wednesday, I will be sharing conversations with international wine industry professionals, discussing issues in diversity, equity, and inclusion through their personal experiences working in the field of wine. If you enjoy the show, please subscribe and rate our show wherever you get your pods. Hello and welcome to Voices. This is Cynthia Chaplin, and today I am so happy to have Deborah Brenner with me on Voices. Deborah is a self-described social entrepreneur and the founder and CEO of Women of the Vine and Spirits, of which I am a huge fan. They have a global membership dedicated to driving the beverage industry toward a more diverse and equitable and inclusive era, and providing encouragement and support and empowerment for everyone involved. And just recently, Deborah was named by Wine Industry Network as one of the most inspiring people in 2024. So thank you so much for giving us the time today, Deborah. I can't wait to chat with you.
Thank you. I'm so thrilled to be here.
Well, let's talk a little bit about how you got into the wine world. I know originally your career was in television and film tech. What got you out of TV and movies and into wine?
I got into the tech industry on the television and film side of technology right after I got out of college. And so we're talking about the late 80s and very, very male dominated industry. I loved what I was doing, but I felt that after years and years of doing it, I was in the industry almost 15 years. I really didn't think I could fully thrive because of it being such a male-dominated industry, and I was working around the globe. So it was actually during a trip I took to Napa and Sonoma, and I have always been a wine enthusiast, but I didn't know a lot about it. And it was during that trip that I actually learned about the amazing women that were, and I say literally, behind a lot of these iconic wines, because they were not being promoted, they were not visible, they were not being talked about in the media. And I was just like, wow, how could all these amazing women be doing the winemaking and viticulture and owners and that, and nobody's talking about it? And I came back and I decided to write a book about the women that were trailblazing. And that's how the name Women of the Vine, from Women of the Vine and Spirits, actually stuck, because that was the name of my book.
Right. Okay. Well, that book was so important. It's one of those things that's very highly commended by Wine Spectator. It's an important must-read book on every wine list. So, how did you discover these women? You were out there and on your work trip. You found them. How did you meet up with them? How did they arrive in your life?
Well, it actually was during a lunch that I was having at Mustard's Grill in Yountville with Karen Cakebread. And she just was gracious to meet with me. We had a mutual friend in common that made the introduction, said I was coming out there. Would you be able to meet? And it was during that lunch that we just got talking, and she just started sharing stories with me about women in the Napa Valley that were very iconic and trailblazers that I had not heard of. And yet I was drinking a lot of the wine that they were making, or wineries that they owned. But, Cynthia, this was 20 years ago, because it's 2024. So I really started the research for the book in 2004, started writing really in 2005. So I can't believe how long it's been. But when I came back to my home in New York, I started digging, and it was really hard to find a lot about the Trailblazers. Being the fact that I did start in Napa and Sonoma, I did focus primarily in California in the Trailblazers. But then after writing the book and coming out, I met amazing women from all over the world. And they were reaching out saying, I'm a woman of the vine. My mom's a woman of the vine, my sister. And the storytelling just kept growing and growing. At that time, I was completely bitten by the wine bug. I didn't want to go back to my tech job. And so I took a big leap of faith and reinvented myself and got involved in the wine industry.
Well, I think we must be about the same age. And I remember starting my wine career around the same time and finding that everything was male dominated. Trying to take wine classes and trying to do things like that was completely male dominated. So it's so interesting that you went forward with this and made the book. And eventually you even started a wine brand based around the 7 female artisan producers in California. So, how did you select the producers? What was the reaction of consumers? What did you take away from this project of, creating a wine brand?
Well, I had a background in marketing, PR, and business development in the tech side. And when I started meeting the women and hearing their stories and the challenges that they went through, even, back then, even to the fact that there were winemakers that were, consistently scoring 92 points and up all the time, vintage after vintage. But the board or the owners did not want the public to know there was a woman making the wine because they didn't think that men would want to buy it. I mean, these were true things going on at this time. And I just thought, how can I help them? How can I use some of my skills? And besides just the book, which I did go out and do tons of book signings and book talks, and I invited women that weren't in the book to join me so we could share their stories because they were women of the vine. And but I was like, how can I help you? And we decided that we would make this collective, kind of like an artisan collective under one label, to try to raise the awareness of the accomplishments of women throughout the world in the wine industry. Um, but I will say that this was before direct to consumer sales. It was early to market because even when I wrote the book, magazines, newspapers, podcastings, they weren't talking about women in wine. So I'd like to say, as an entrepreneur, I was a little bit too early to market. But I did it for 7 years and learned the industry inside and out, from everything from working with the producers as they were creating the wine out in the vineyards, um, to having how to figure out how to get UPC codes and labels and shipping and warehousing and distribution and sales and on premise, off premise. So, and I met incredible people from around the world throughout that entire process. But at the end of the day, I realized that what I wanted to do to advocate for empowering and advancing women wasn't going to work in a bottle of wine. And so I was at the drawing board again.
Well, and a great drawing board it was, because in 2015 you founded the Women of the Vine and Spirits, and you started off with a symposium and a networking event that just completely sold out. So what happened at the first symposium, and how did that event morph into this amazing organization that exists now? How many members do you have around the world now? Do you know?
We have over 171 corporate members that are, supporting our collective mission. and about over 11,000, individual members. So it's really a growing community, and we welcome everyone into our community from day one after dissolving the wine company and not knowing what I was going to do. But I have to say, it was the women that I met along the way that would tell me their stories and their challenges and their hardships and their struggles. And they they really said, I'm a woman of the vine. And I realized at that time, you know, maybe we should get together as a collective voice. And from day one, as I was organizing the first symposium, I thought it would just be a one-off event, and I purposely, intentionally invited senior male executives to join us. It was very, very important because women had been talking to one another for years and years and years, but we needed the men, the decision makers, to come and to see what it was like being a minority in the group. The men that came to the first symposium in March 2015, I mean, I could count them maybe on both hands, and they were so outnumbered, and they felt like they would come up to me and go, "Oh my gosh, is this what it feels like when you come to our events?" And I'm like, "Absolutely, absolutely." That you now you're experiencing what it feels like to be the only. Um, and I think that was a wake up call. And after the symposium, again, I thought maybe 250 people, maybe a couple of sponsors. We doubled in size, we sold out, and it was so clear that the women wanted a forum and an organization and a community to keep this going, to keep the advocating for this. At the time, we're talking about next year will be our 10th year. Just 10 years ago, it was very difficult to find women in senior leadership positions and in the C suite. And today we are seeing progress. So I knew we had to keep going. It couldn't just be a one off event. And so that summer, I taught myself some software platforms. And in September, we officially launched as a global membership organization for corporate and individual members.
Well, it's so interesting what you said about men discovering what it feels like to be the only, because I'm sure you and I both, in the early stages of our career, often were the only woman or one of very few in a room full of men in the wine industry. So I'm very interested in male allyship in the wine industry. So I just want to know sort of how do you see the role of men as allies in our industry? What could improve, and how can we support men to make the necessary changes that need to be made?
I think the biggest thing, well, now in I want to say maybe its fourth year, um, Women of the Vine and Spirits started a live chat series, which we do on Zoom, and they're interactive with Q&A. And I actually interview male CEOs in the beverage alc industry. And that has been amazing and so well attended. I think the biggest thing for male allyship was having a frank conversation with them. A lot of the men that are sitting in decision making positions, they have daughters. They are proud of what their wives are doing. They're proud of their moms. I think that was the biggest thing, was to really start talking at a very personal level and realizing that they were in a position of power to help us make change. And that is where I feel my, the culture I wanted to create within the community globally of Women of the Vine and Spirits was always about inclusivity of all. And I think by embracing the men and having these very open, frank, unscripted dialogues, um, really got them to look at things in a very different perspective than just a balance sheet or a P&L, but really from a personal standpoint. And then pointing out that when men and women work together and we embrace our differences as being our superpowers, that's where the magic happens. That's why the bottom line is better when you have, you know, more equity within your teams.
I think that's such a valid point. I think it's so important for people to understand that, this can't work unless we figure out how to combine and harness all the powers that everyone in the wine industry has. So I love what you're doing, and I like the fact that you're giving these, men who are in positions of power, men who are CEOs in our industry, the opportunity to, you know, be interviewed, interact with people, get their voice heard, hear other people's voices. It's a very, very important job that you're doing. So I want to ask you also about, you said you've got over 171 corporate members, which is a hefty amount of support. So how are you developing the kind of partnerships you want for the organization? Where are you looking for corporate sponsorship and corporate partners?
We are looking everywhere, and from day one, it was about bringing in all industry sectors across all three tiers across the supply chain. I truly believe that, a tide rises all boats. And in order to systemically change an industry, we need to do it all together. So I'm very, very proud that our corporate members encompass trucking companies, cooperages, marketing, law firms, um, packaging, design, glassware, importers, exporters, shipping companies, wholesalers, suppliers, education, universities. Um, that I think has been the real um, change maker, is that we're having these dialogues across the entire supply chain globally. And that way, it's not just one part, like just, winemaking or just distilling or just, the makers, but it's everybody. And so these senior executives are across the entire supply chain because, as you know, it takes a heck of a lot of people to produce one bottle of wine from the ground to getting on the shelf and, producing spirits and beer and everything else, mixers, non-alc. And I think that's been really the most amazing thing. So we really pride ourselves on bringing the entire community together. It also allows for people to learn about career pathing, people looking for what else is available in the industry. People don't realize they can talk to law firms, but what it also does is the networking and the power of sharing knowledge. We have our law firms that come on and talk about legal issues that are happening in our industry and lending their expertise. And we have people talking about shipping, supply chain issues, and trucking issues, and packaging and marketing. So, networking is the number one thing, really, is the power of our community, elevating everybody and celebrating the women getting promoted and advancing is a huge part of our other series, which is the C-Suite Insights, where we interview women in senior leader positions because they're role models. If you can't see it, you can't be it. So we do a lot: education, resources, job boards, and a lot of live interactive sessions.
It's just incredible what you've created in such a short time, only 10 years, not even. It's only 9 years this year. But harking back to the beginnings of our careers, when I first got interested in wine, I was in university in the States. I was 19, but I never thought that it could be a career. That just never occurred to me. It was either you could be a sommelier, but I didn't want to do that particularly. And I had no idea what other careers there were in wine until far, far later. If somebody had been able to, give me that information when I was 19, I suspect my life would be quite different. So,
I'm with you. I mean, I would enjoy it. I was an enthusiast, but I had no idea. And I think that's why we're also proud of bringing on university and college, where we actually give the students complimentary membership to Women of the Vine and Spirits as part of the university or college coming on board. So they're learning about the industry from industry professionals while they're still studying. I think that's really exciting for us. And I think for the young male students, they're sitting in on our Breaking Barriers series with the male executives. And I think we're also, they're seeing what male allyship really looks like. So I think, the work that we're doing, and then you said, how do we bring in the corporate members? We have multiple levels from associate to diamond. We really ask for our corporate members. We don't have parameters for every level um, because we want to be inclusive for all their employees. But we find that our corporate members that have a very dedicated and commitment to advancing women and gender diversity do come in at higher levels because they also know that they're paying it forward for the organization so that all levels could be supported because not everybody has the same budgets. And I think that's really important that we really look for the bigger companies to come on, take a big step so that all the smaller wineries, distilleries, breweries, and companies and entrepreneurs and everybody else can also benefit from the work that we're doing.
That's fantastic. And I think that level of, understanding about not everyone in the wine industry is created equal or has, the finances available to them that they might like to have is important because it is another means of exclusion. Wine courses are expensive, wine membership is expensive, becoming a corporate partner is expensive. So having the opportunity to join your corporate partnership program at different levels of cost to the company is crucial to getting more companies involved. So it's interesting because you've mentioned education a couple of times, and I know in 2017 you launched the Women of the Vine and Spirits Foundation to further education and increase opportunities for women to excel in the beverage industry. And now it's been 7 years since the foundation began. So I just wanted to ask you how it's going and how many scholarships have been awarded and what a typical recipient of your scholarships look like. Do you track their career paths after they, receive their scholarships and do their studying? What's happening with this program? Because again, as I said, this is a very key component to keeping the wine industry alive and vibrant and getting young people involved because it's expensive to get involved.
Absolutely. And Cindy, you really hit the nail on the head of when you say about, the furthering the education. If our mission is to advance and empower women, education, I always say, isn't just about gaining knowledge. It's about gaining confidence. And, studies have proven that when people are knowledgeable and they're educated about certain subjects, they are more confident to get out there. And we also know in a traditionally male dominated industry, as women, we often have to prove ourselves even more so that we're knowledgeable in the subject of wine, spirits, beer, anything else in the industry. So the foundation started 2 years after the first symposium, and it really was to look at the E in equity, right? And to your point, there's amazing, talented people out there, but not everybody has the financial, um, you know, capabilities to be able to have continuing ed, professional education, to be able to, support some of the coursework and the certifications. So this really, the foundation was born to be able to provide that equity to those that needed it. Because, like you said, it is expensive. And every year we are seeking more and more donors. So the first year, believe it or not, we only gave out 4 scholarships because I only had one major donor, and then had to keep building it as we went. We also do apply for grants. Last year we did get a grant from the Gerard Bassett Association. We just reapplied again just last week, and we do. We're very grateful for Gallo for being a patron level donor, which is the highest level donor for many years. So in we provide annual scholarships in 8 different categories since 2017, and we are just in the judging right now for 2024. So we haven't awarded 2024 yet. Scholarships are still open till the end of July, so anybody listening can still apply. But we have awarded $785,755 worth of scholarships since 2017. And we have given 308 individual recipients in 70 different countries. And that's thanks to the generosity of 32 donor companies.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, it's so almost $800,000, 308 individuals in 70 different countries. And we are in the judging stages right now. And we have judges on our foundation committee, which comprise of 25 industry professionals in all different walks of the industry that volunteer. And so what does a typical applicant look like? They're every type of applicant, 70 different countries. Those are the awards, but we get over 300 applicants a year. And everything from WSET level 1 to $10,000 for Master of Wine. And, it's now $10,000 to get your level 4 WSET diploma. So we're very proud, including other scholarships for professional development, continuing ed at university. We give money for that, and money for people pursuing other certifications, beer certifications, spirits, wine, and even for professionals that are going in different avenues within the wine industry. And
do you track them at all? Do you see what the scholarship does to their career after they've studied? Do they get back to you and tell you what they do next?
Yes, so we have a virtual ceremony every year where we bring the current recipients to award them, and we give them an opportunity like to provide a little testimonial and come on board, and we're all live. So we have people from all over the world. We've done the ceremony where we have people sitting in New Zealand and France and Portugal and different parts of the U.S. And then we gift them with a membership for the year for Women of the Vine and Spirit. So they also are getting all of the work that we're doing within Women of the Vine and Spirits and all of the resources and the live events and chats and virtual. And we actually have a group, a discussion group for every cohort. So we have the class of 2017, the class of 2018, the class of 2019, and that's how we stay in touch with each of our cohorts every year, and often help them find mentors. A lot of times they'll come to us and say, I want to study something more about sustainability and biodynamic, and we'll help introduce them to other members that, have expertise in that field. And sometimes they just have some questions they want to ask. So it's so fulfilling to see. And they're not just young students. We have people of all ages that are looking to further their careers. And we have people looking to reinvent, like I did, and change careers.
Yeah, and I think we all learned, some good things came out of COVID. We all learned that pivoting and being agile and taking an opportunity to change things when it arises can be so beneficial to everyone's life. So it's just great that you're giving people this opportunity and supporting them. It's one thing to give people, say, here's some money, go study, but to support them and have these sorts of discussion groups and mentorships and the ability to get back to you and say, help, I need some support here. I think that goes much farther towards furthering education, than just the money itself. Wine studying can be quite lonely, so being able to stay in touch with women of the vine and spirits after you've gotten a grant or a scholarship is just amazing, and will undoubtedly further their careers.
And absolutely, and I think it's so amazing when we do the virtual ceremony on Zoom and we're all live, so we're seeing each other and hearing. Um, they often find each other sharing in studies, and they'll exchange, their emails to stay in touch. So it's really beautiful, and we invite past recipients to come to every one of our ceremonies to meet the new recipients. So it's a real kind of holistic cycle to see as they um, are entering into programs and then what they're doing afterwards. And we have also received applications from people that completed certain studies and now are going on and asking for financial support for their next diploma. So that's also, we encourage that as well. And we do offer not just the Gallo scholarships and then the Women of the Vine, but we also support the Discus Leadership Academy um, for their executive leadership program and developing leader program. Those are 8-month programs that teams are going through, and we've provided 3 to 5 scholarships a year for the Leadership Academy as well.
Well, it really plays into what you said earlier in our conversation about networking being the power of your community. You're creating a community that is, mutually beneficial to everyone involved, and that's something that is just, worth more than you can ever put a dollar figure on. So, um, I want, yay.
And especially now, the wine industry is going through some very challenging and changing times. And I always believe, that during challenging times, we have to lean into our community, because that's where we're going to find the best solutions. That's the diversity in thought. And so that's when I really encourage people to lean in. I say Women of the Vine and Spirits membership is like a gym membership. I have the best intention of wanting to get in shape, lose weight, get healthy. But if I don't go to the gym, which I'm very guilty of not going, but if I don't go to the gym, I'm not going to get the results. So I say to people, when you become a part of Women of the Vine and Spirits as a corporate member, an employer, an individual, please take a look at all that we're offering and take advantage of it, because it really does make a huge difference, especially during
Absolutely, I,
challenging
I could
times.
not agree more. And I know you've launched more things. Just last year you launched the diverse power brands. So tell us about this. This is a B2B digital project. So what prompted this idea, and what's going on with that?
Well, as an entrepreneur and looking at things that I feel, either there's a void or there's a problem that needs to be solved, in all the work that I've been doing with Women of the Vine and Spirits now, for the last 9 years, is seeing how frustrated the women owned companies, women made, brands in wine, beer, spirits, and all, different categories, that they were very frustrated that there are major corporations that um, that basically talk about their supplier diversity programs their goals and their spend, but that money wasn't going to women owned and women made companies in beverage alcohol. And they were sharing with me, like, I keep going and applying in these, all these major companies, grocery stores around the world that say they have supplier diversity programs, hotels, airlines, venues, casinos, just everywhere you turn. And they're saying, retail, they put in their annual reports, their ESG, how much money they're spending on diverse suppliers, but we're not included. And so I realized that the buyers and supplier diversity were saying, we're not sure how to find these people in beverage alcohol. And they're so busy. So I decided that I needed to self-fund, and it's a completely separate self-funded company, separate from Women of the Wine and Spirits. I hired systems architect. I took it upon myself, and my tech background, I knew we could do this on a digital platform globally. And so I hired systems architects and developers, and with my tech background, explained to them what we wanted to achieve, purposely made it a B2B because of the 3-tier system, wanting to empower wholesalers and empower buyers. So it's not open to consumers, but it is free for buyers anywhere in the world, and importers, wholesalers. And we now even brought on 2 investment companies. So investors are looking for the next bev out brands that they may want to invest in. So we're really, really proud of working with Pronghorn on Black-owned spirits. We're working with Distill Ventures, which are incubating and investing. I've been speaking to other investors. So we're working and integrated with RNDC and LibDib here in the US. But we just actually entered an agreement with We Connect International, which is the international certifying body for women-owned businesses. Because in America, the third-party certifying bodies for diversity or women, you must be a U.S. citizen. But with We Connect International, they certify in 60 countries. So we are just getting that off the ground now, and we empower suppliers to own their brand narrative in this centralized global digital catalog for their companies and their brands.
That's incredible. I had no idea that an international body was certifying as well. So it's fantastic that you've tapped into that and created basically, a database that buyers and can use as an actual tool. So how's the feedback been?
Well, I launched the company in April 2023. So it's just over a year. Launched it at the Wine and Spirits Wholesalers of America Trade Show Conference. And that was April. June, we did our first in-person pitch day in Minneapolis at Target with the 4 wine buyers. And so the wine buyers tested, because they gave us feedback and were working with us during the beta stage. I was working with Costco, Target, Walmart, Royal Caribbean. We were working with RNDC, Breakthrough, Martinetti, and wholesalers, and really just recently having conversations in the UK with Be Inclusive Hospitality, with Lorraine's group and things. So from that Target, the 4 wine buyers, they logged into Diverse Power Brands and they spent 2 weeks exploring. And we have beautiful brand stories that the suppliers get to control and own for 24/7, 365. It's their stories, their videos, their photos. It's a hugely affordable marketing tool for digital assets. And out of the 2 weeks that they went through and explored, they came to us with a list of 13 companies to come to Minneapolis with us. And out of the 13, they got to pitch. So the founders and the brand owners all came. I also invited the three top wholesalers. So we had Southern, Johnson Brothers, and R&DC in the U.S. with us at Target. And Target selected 7 of them that went into their spring set this February. Some went into one store, some went in 12. 2 of them went in 29 stores. And now from that one case study, we're out talking to more and more and more major corporations as well as independent mom and pop buyers. We want buyers from everywhere in the world to come and access this for free and encourage suppliers to get discovered by getting your company, your brands subscribed to. It's an annual subscription fee, and it's extremely affordable.
That is amazing. As I said, it's a usable tool. It's something that, there's a call to action and it is actionable once you have joined it. It's definitely going to benefit you. So what an amazing thing to have created and to have that success, within the space of the first year. I'm going to keep my eye on this because I can't wait to see what happens.
Yeah, we're really, really excited about it because, I guess it's kind of like when buyers and wholesalers kept saying, we don't know how to find them. I was like, okay, well, now you know how to find them all in one place. Super easy. And you could search by intersectionality. So, you go into some e-commerce sites and it says Black owned, women owned. It says, veteran owned. I'm like, excuse me, women of the Vine and Spirits, we talk about intersectionality. I could be all 3, you know? So LGBTQI plus, women, Hispanic, API. We really are excited that we're the only system that you can actually search by intersectionality. You also could search by varietal, by category, wine, beer, spirits, non-alc, mixers, water. We anybody that qualifies, and all in our FAQs has all of the qualifying. Everything is standardized. And the most important thing is that the suppliers are self-declaring and have the way to prove that they are a diverse powered brand. So that's very, very important because there are some e-commerce that claims that certain brands may be women owned or Black owned, but they're really not. And so we monitor everything, and legal documents are signed and certification if they have it. Those badges get put on it. So really a very important trusted resource for on and off premise around the world.
It is amazing. That's just incredible. I can't wait to see how that grows because there's absolutely no doubt in my mind that it will. It's something that people really need, and you've addressed it. So, you're clearly on this DEI mission, which really resonates with me. Obviously, that's why you're on Voices with me today. But I just want to ask, where will the next 5 years take you? What have you got in mind for the future? What are the next projects? Because I don't seem to think that you're one of these people who sits around and rests on your laurels.
I think it's because the world is changing, and we have to stay relevant and change with it. But we have to keep looking at the barriers for advancing and empowering women, for gender diversity. What's going on in the world is in a lot of places, we're slipping back in women's rights. I never thought in my lifetime at, my age at 58 that I would be looking at things going backwards, from the women around the world. We celebrate Women of the Vine and Spirits. Of course, we celebrate Women's History Month. We celebrate International Women's Day. We want to honor the trailblazers that allow me to be doing what I'm doing today. And so I think, one of the scary things is that right now, politically, it's being weaponized, and people are changing course on their commitments to DE&I, their commitments to gender diversity, their commitments to advancing women. This is a time, as our corporate members know, this is not a time to turn back. This is a time to double down. This is the time to show your employees, your potential employees, and the industry at large that this is the human capital. This is the people that are, making the business, and making sure that you're supporting them. But also in the most challenging economic times, this is where diversity of thought, the winners in going through these challenging times, will be because they leaned into the people within their organization and were thinking outside of the box. And the only way you're going to do that is to embrace everybody and all of their superpowers and their diversities, to look at solutions during these times. So I think, we invite for more corporate members, because the work that we do has to be funded, and we're a small team. One of the things that we just launched in March, that we brought on sponsors, and we're so thrilled to see Discus WSWA and RNDC and Brown Forman and Pernod Ricard. We just launched for free a dedicated website for hospitality and industry bev alc professionals, no matter where they are in the world. It is free, called 86 Harassment. The website is 86harassment.com, and it is a groundbreaking initiative addressing sexual harassment in the bev alc and hospitality industry. And every resource on there and every one of our training sessions are free for anybody to take, no questions asked. And the training is focused on creating a safer community by teaching how to create boundaries and bystander intervention. So incredibly important. If we want to attract the best talent, if we want to retain the best talent, if we want people to bring their full authentic selves to work, we have to address the sexual harassment, and the reputation in bev alc and hospitality needs to change. So not only are the postcards, the social media, the posters, and the training free, and the resources and articles, but we also have a 24/7 dedicated hotline in English and Spanish, which is run by the largest sexual nonviolence organization in the United States, called RAIN. And you can find that all on 86 Harassment. And, thank you to our sponsors for helping us be able to, pay these organizations to come and do this training, that we can offer it for free for anyone.
That is incredible, and it's ironic that you brought that up, because I was just reading about it this morning and didn't want to muddy the waters of our conversation, but you have put it in such great context of what you're doing and what you're planning for the future, and I think that's just going to be an invaluable resource. Not everybody feels that they can, speak out. Having a hotline they can call is a great way to start and to support people. So so much of what you're doing is so supportive in so many ways, not just money, not just symposiums, but all these other ways as well. There's a real ethos of creating a supportive, successful environment that people will want to be part of. And that's how you build community. So I don't think that I could possibly say anything more that would end this interview in a more positive way than the 86 Harassment program. I think it's amazing. And again, just like the new database for buyers to find women-owned companies, and, being able to search intersectionality, I think this 86 Harassment program is going to be, something so valuable. We probably can't even imagine how much good it will do. So thank you for getting it out there in the world. And I'm just so grateful to speak to you today. Thank you so much, Deborah.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on Voices. Thank you for giving me the opportunity and to represent all of our corporate members and individual members that are supporting our mission to really make a better industry for everyone. Because at the end of the day, we all love this industry. We're passionate about the industry. It's why we work so hard in the industry, and we welcome everyone to come and join in the community and be a part of this movement with us, because next year we'll be celebrating a decade of progress, but we have a lot more work to do.
That is true words. That is definitely true words. So all our listeners, please go and check out Women of the Vine and Spirits website, get involved. And thank you so much for uplifting us today, Deborah. Really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me here.
Thank you for listening, and remember to tune in next Wednesday when I'll be chatting with another fascinating guest. Italian Wine Podcast is among the leading wine podcasts in the world and the only one with a daily show. Tune in every day and discover all our different shows. You can find us at ItalianWinePodcast.com, SoundCloud, Spotify, Himalaya, or wherever you get your pods.